Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Blind Spot. So a lot of stuff went down in this episode, so let's kind of break it down. Obviously, we have Shepard making her move on the FBI headquarters branch. Obviously, the one that, the series takes place out of, the one that, Kurt is the head of. Basically, Kurt and Jane are outside of the building because obviously they were all following a lead. Parker had given up Shepard one of her locations simply because it's like I found out that his girlfriend Devin was pregnant. But Shepard goes on an all-out gun battle takes place in the main offices of the FBI, and it ends with a lot of people hurt, and basically Shepard needs access to Patterson's computer and is starting to kill people one by one until the director, or at least the dude who's Weller's boss, gives the code, but he doesn't. But this one lady, she finally does. She's like, yeah, I gave you the code and everything. But Shepard kills the dude anyway, mainly because it's he was too defiant. The fact is he was unwilling to budge because it's like, no, we don't give in to terrorists, and the fact of the matter is that, they'll only win, we win by staying strong, and so that's what he was doing, but it ended up costing him his life. It's like, I could tell you that, you could tell, it's like, I was so sure that, Shepard was going to kill the lady that gave her the code to. I was so sure it was going to be like, bow, shoot her first, and then him, but nope, she just killed him, so it's like, that sucked, but, kind of, I saw that coming. I knew someone would end up giving up the code, so, because basically, the FBI, Patterson's computer is connected to a basically Homeland Security connected thing, where it's there are a lot of pillar agencies that are connected to Patterson's computer, and it's by accessing Patterson's computer, you get access to all those other computers. Granted, it's a multi-hit attack. That it's not just this FBI building Shepard is hitting, she's hitting other buildings as well, setting up bombs and everywhere, even to the point Jane and Kurt had to kind of sneak their way into the building, and there's a point where Jane is Weller is telling her to, defuse a bomb. He's like, come on, it's just like Operation, except, you touch the outside and boom, game over. Where she's like, well, I've never played Operation before. He's like, don't say that, because you don't know that for a fact. For all you know, you could have been this could have been under your skill set or something like that, which Jane successfully does it. She ends up doing it twice. All the while, the whole Roman situation, which I kind of skipped over, because obviously that's where the episode started. Roman's super pissed at Jane finding out and everything. His temper gets the best of him. He's literally trying to kill her. And Jane explains that later on. She's like, no, the fact of the matter is Roman is fine. He even trying to explain it to the director dude that's dead now. But she was like, no, it's okay. He was just mad and everything. It's he literally tried to kill you. It's no, he's just mad about being lied to and everything. And obviously Jane's mad because she's she went along with lying to him because it's that's what Nas as well as, Kurt himself said, that would have been the best option. But now she's things would have been different if she hadn't lied to him. The question is, would it have been? Because I never even thought about that. I completely forgot, her circumstances are very different from Roman. Roman had one shot of that drug to wipe his memories. Jane's body was filled up to the brim with it. That's why her memory, her memory is going to such an extent, and but the fact is he had only one shot, so obviously its effects are starting to slowly wear off. So now he hates her because he blames her, because it's at the end of the day, it's I saved you and this is how you repay me. Because in his mind, it's you just wanted to bring me in so that you could help the FBI and stuff like that, which is true, yes. But at the same time, it's if she didn't do this, he would have stayed out on his own. It's she even said to herself, it's we would have killed each other. It's I did what I wanted. Basically, she wanted to give him a second chance. It's after everything that you've been through, dealing with Shepard and everything, you were so conflicted about being who you were and everything. I wanted to give you a fresh start, I got one. Because, but at the end of the day, it's a situation where it's very selfish of Jane, but it's that's her brother. She loves him and cares about him, especially after everything he did for her. Of course, she's going to try and, give him a happy ending, but the fact of the matter is, it's just because getting her memory worked out for her to a certain degree doesn't mean it's going to work out for Roman. So it's actually, it's sad. It's just, I mean, for him, he even says it like for every new memory he's getting back, he hates her that much more because every memory represents a piece of his life that Jane took away from it. It was for the best, but I think it's a combination of like the fact is that she stole his life away from him. Plus, it's like it's forcing him to, like he had no idea about all the terrible things he did, but now they're all slowly coming back to him now. So I think that's another level that he kind of hates her. But also, obviously, we had the first confrontation between Roman and Shepard, which they haven't seen each other since the whole, like, I think I brought it up last episode, since was that the first half of the season where he ended up, the whole trying to kill each other situation. Which leads to a whole conversation where she's like, honestly, tell me, why did you choose Jane? She's not Remy, obviously. You know that. She's a complete stranger, yet you chose her over your own mother, I've always been there for you. I've always taken care of you. It may not have been the easiest thing, but I loved you. I was like your mother, and yet not like your mother. I was your mother, and you chose a stranger over me. And he says, it's because Jane didn't make him choose. Shepard was making him have a choice. It's like, here's the gun, and effectively point the gun at Jane and pull the trigger. He even references later on. He's like, oh, are there actual bullets in the gun this time? Because it was a test to see where his loyalties lie. But it's like Jane never made him choose. Shepard put him in that position to choose. But even with that all said and done, on some level you do see that he does resent her because like, hey, you tried to kill me and everything. It's like, oh, only after you tried to kill me, so. But he's on Shepard's side again, which I kind of called. I felt like, now that his memories were restored, he's going to be more likely to stay on her side because for him, he can't trust the FBI. He can't trust Jane, because it's like she lied to him this entire time. It's like, how can I be by someone's side who lied to me this entire time? And it's like, because, it's like, for one, it's obviously it's set in his mind that that's not my sister. You look like my sister. Obviously, that's something he figured out a while back, but it still doesn't change the fact is that is his sister to a certain extent. Even though she's a different person, she's still his sister. So, but obviously things didn't go exactly the way Shepard wanted to. I mean, to everyone's knowledge. So it seems like she came there, caused a mass panic, caused all this destruction. There were, as we find out, there were 6 other attacks. 4 of them didn't go off because obviously Patterson was able to get the word out soon enough, but still 2 of them went off. But it was a situation where there were still casualties, but not as many casualties as it could have been, which is like, oh, we saved a lot of people's lives. But Kirk kind of puts it as like, yeah, but that's not what people are going to remember. The fact is there was an attack and it's like something of such a large scale and everything, and not just on any particular building, government buildings. It's kind of showing a statement of being like, yeah, it kind of instilled that fear into people, which you could argue is kind of what Shepard's idea is. I mean, because later on she ends up she puts her face out there. She reveals herself to the world. It's like, I'm Shepard. I'm the one that did this. Because the fact of the matter is this United States isn't what it used to be. The fact of the matter is it's become corrupt and disgusting. I'm here to take it back. These 2 empty chairs represent all those who have fallen, that we've lost. The fact of the matter is, if you want to join together, we have to fix this nation. Essentially, fix the thing that she's kind of been labeling all this time. So. Also, at the same time, we have to deal with the whole Tasha and Reed situation where Tasha ended up getting shot. I figured as much. I was like, someone was telling me, like, the moment their back is turned on, I was like, yeah, the lights flicked back on, like, after that gunfight they had with Shepard's men. And I was like, yeah, it's most likely going to be one, if not all of them are still alive. And he turned their back and Tasha gets shot. Obviously, like, Reed puts Parker down permanently this time. Kind of sucks for Devin and her baby. But nevertheless, she's badly hurt and everything. And obviously, we see at the end of the episode, she's in the hospital and everything. It's kind of like roles reversed. After that whole trap situation during the first half of the season, it's like she was there for him, and now he's there for her during this circumstance. And it's like, because Reed had kind of made a decision that, like, hey, he was going to leave the FBI and kind of just go to Quantico. Probably get more like a desk. He can teach and stuff like that. Be a profiler. I forgot. That's exactly what he was. He wanted to just be a profiler, kind of be like, probably work behind the scenes, not be out in the field, because he can't trust himself. It's like, if I'm not at the top of my game, and it's something that Tasha kind of puts in perspective. She's like, oh, you think just like, if you're not feeling anything, you're kind of numbing yourself and just kind of being like super cop all the time. It's like, that's not what makes you a good cop. Being compassionate and being empathetic towards someone's particular situation. Now that type of thing makes you a good cop. And the fact is you're willing to listen and care. That's what makes a good cop. Because even Dr. Sun even pointed out, she's like, I never actually told you to quit. I said it was a possibility. The fact of the matter is, he's like, can you just sign off the papers? Because like, he's like, for right now, I feel like I can't really do my job. I can't help anyone. But it's like, do you have to be like, once again, super cop to be able to help people? It's like, no, you don't. But, you know, for Reed, it's like, she ended up saying like, yeah, go ahead. Here, I'm giving you the sign off that you can go at any time. She's like, but at the end of the day, even when you go there, you will still be Edgar Reed, trying to tell him that even when he goes there, like changes locations won't change what's going on with him. He'll still have to deal with it. It's not the location. She's like, yes, it might have been a possibility, but that's all she said was to take some time to think about it. She didn't say rush to the decision, which he said he's been thinking about this for a while, and maybe he has been and maybe he hasn't been, but we'll kind of see where everything kind of goes further on down the line with this whole situation. But this whole situation, in particular, Roman's situation, does present a very interesting thing. We saw what happened to Roman. Roman ended up immediately going back. There was always stuff bubbling in the surface, below the surface, showing you that even if its memory's white, there was a little bit of the old Roman there, and there's been multiple things showing that. But now it's like, with his memories fully restored, he became the old Roman again. I still feel like there's some reservation, because he was asking, so you're going to kill, like, it's like, oh yeah, like, go take care of him. It's like Jane and Kurt, and he's like, you're going to kill them? And so it seemed like there was some concern, because he does kind of care for Kurt, and obviously, whether he wants to admit it or not, he still cares for Jane. But it still seems like there's kind of a change in his heart. Maybe it's because he has all his memories of before, but he also has all his memories of when he lost his memories. But Jane's kind of like, who's to say that won't happen to me? Obviously, it wore off on Roman. Obviously, he had one dose, but the fact of the matter is, my body was filled with it, sure, but eventually the drugs will wear off. I mean, granted, it's been a very, very long time, and obviously they've been wearing off to a certain extent because she's remembering stuff from the past, but eventually she may turn back into Remy, and even then it scares her, because it's like, well, who's to say I won't end up like Roman? You know, I won't go back to being the person I was before. And I was like, you know, for Jane, she doesn't want that, because it's like, she doesn't like who she was before, which Kurt's like, oh yeah, you don't have to worry about it. I saw the goodness in your heart, which is like, I mean, that's honestly the same thing that Jane said about Roman. She saw the goodness in his heart, saw who he was without all his memories and stuff like that. But now that he got them back, that good heart is kind of shrouded by all the darkness and everything that he's been through. But Kurt has faith in Jane and believes like, no, you're not going to end like up like that. You're very different from your brother. You're you. Because the fact of the matter is, even Dr. Sun said with the whole situation, like, Roman's situation was very different from Jane. Like, Roman's kind of broken in certain regards, not to the extent that Jane was. Like, Jane wasn't nearly as damaged as him, so there's not the whole issue of like, so I don't know. It seems like they might be setting it up for the fact is that Jane might become the enemy again by her memories coming back, by Jane disappearing and Remy coming back. But then once again, it's like, when her memories do come back, like, what does that mean for her? Like, after everything she's done, like trying to stop her mom and her brother, she killed the men that she loved, Oscar. So it's like, where will Jane fit in? Like, where will Remy go? What will happen to Remy if she ever gets her memories back, you know? It just kind of presents some very interesting thoughts. Obviously, we finally had Jane and Kurt kissing. I mean, which isn't the first time, but obviously this season, like, they got interrupted before, but now they had that opportunity again. So, kind of a side note I brought up last episode. I thought, like, what Reed and Tasha were going to do was going to do something kind of crazy and out there about the whole situation, but they didn't. I thought that's what she was kind of planning last episode, but it seems like, no, that's not the case. She probably was just willing to not give up, that she was going to try and find a different way. Fine. I mean, she found out the information about Devin's baby is like, I mean, maybe she found like a loophole around that. Like I said, I kind of brought it up too. There's a whole like Freddy situation now, I'm sure. Like, it got brought up, so I'm sure we're still not done with that storyline. That's going to pop up at some point. But we finally find out with this whole situation, because basically Secret Service pops up and they've come to collect Kurt, basically take him somewhere. He goes in there and basically he sees the top people at different branches, the dude from the CIA, the CDC, you know, like top branch people, and himself being kind of like the director of the FBI and whatever. And so that was a particular situation where it's like, okay, so it puts everything in perspective. These group is known as cogs, that basically they're the last line, that when things kind of go wrong with the government, like they're kind of put away and secure, that they're the next line of succession, that basically the ones that kind of take over positions within the top ranking government, like president and stuff like that, like any like top ranking officials and stuff like that, it's those particular people, all those people in that room. And then it starts sinking into Kurt's head. It's like, because the tattoos have always been about leading to corruption. And in my brain, I was like, whoa. Is it saying that the cogs are corruption? It's like, no. This is all about Shepard trying to destroy a corrupted government. And the reason why Weller was so important to her is because, as we see, he's a cog trying to implement the Truman Program. That's what the Truman Program is, to have these people be the successors and take over new positions in the government. What she's planning to do is to wipe the slate clean with the old government and this new government that's less corrupted, because she went out of her way to make sure that Kurt wasn't corrupted by going to him at such a young age. She saw the potential she had. She probably saw a little bit of herself, like saw a patriot, someone that would lead this country down a good path. I mean, granted, there might be a lot more to like her decision to why she chose him specifically. There might be another key factor into that we're not sure about. But nevertheless, like she chose him and like put him in a position so that he could be, to earn that position. I mean, because at the end of the day, I was always wondering about that. Like, Oscar killed Mayfair, obviously, like it's because she found out, but it's like, what if the plan was kind of to get Mayfair kind of out of the way anyway, I think. If I remember, I could be remembering that wrong. So maybe Oscar killing her was kind of like it's kind of two birds with one stone. She needed to be out of the way anyway, so Kurt could take over the place of being director and everything. Like, obviously part of like, Sandstorm's plan. So it seems like that this was all what it was leading up to. The attacks and everything were to force them to come together, put them all in one position, and now like her attack can go in a way. So obviously Kurt's going to probably try and I will obviously stop her. So. Now, how she exactly plans on going about doing what she's doing, obviously probably has to do with the chemicals or explosives that she got from Bangkok. So overall, a very good episode. I really like that twist of being like, so that's what this is about. We finally got a concrete answer as to what the Truman Program is all about, like how Kurt kind of fits into all of this and everything, how, like, why she was willing to be like, okay, I guess we'll just have to remove him from the equation. Like, even if she doesn't have Kurt, there's other people that could fill that role that I guess she's okay with. It's like, if Kurt's taken off the board, that's fine. That's at least, that might be one less person that can take, to become a successor to the government and everything, but at least the rest of the other plans are still in play for the other people to kind of take roles and stuff like that. So a very nice twist. Next week is in fact the season finale. It's crazy to think it's already coming to an end. I mean, granted, I knew ahead of time. I kind of brought this up before, but it's like literally like, I'd go as far as saying like 75, maybe 80% of everything I'm watching basically ends this month. Like a lot of it ends this month. There's only like a handful of shows that will still be ongoing. But nevertheless, like I'm very interested to see what goes down in the season finale. Like how this will all end. Like where will this end with a situation where Jane will have to kill her mom and her brother just to stop them, or will be a situation where Roman makes the choice himself, that it's like he chooses Jane again or something, or maybe he decides to take Shepard out and then himself out because it's like we don't fit in this world, or maybe you have once again, like I brought up, like a last minute set like twist where it's like, oh, everything's fine and dandy, but then all of a sudden, boom, Jane's all her memories start coming back because it's like all the chemicals in her start like, leaving her system completely, because it never crossed my mind that like, yeah, maybe this is a temporary thing. Well, I mean, maybe it's crossed my mind before, but I don't want to give myself too much credit, but it's like, I never really thought about that until this whole Roman thing. It's like, yeah, like he had one shot, and the whole point was, the reason why they gave her so much is so that she could keep up the ruse for as long as it was necessary. So that was the whole point of filling her body with so much of it, but eventually it will work its way out of her system. Maybe there's this possibility that she may be like this forever. Granted, that's me being optimistic, but I'm pretty sure, like, story twist and cliffhangers type of thing, it seemed like the perfect cliffhanger and twist would be like, oh, she becomes Remy. Either like she remembers everything, or certain key memories that tie to Remy form there, and maybe it's like, I mean, this is just speculation. So I mean, I'll save it for next week's episode, depending on seeing where the season finale ends, before I really talk about anything going beyond that. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.